Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Hopefully we'll get some
Morning.
people cascading in here a little bit late. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Good. All right. So I'm changing up today. So normally, first of all, if you guys are newer, and I know some of you are, if you haven't really dug into the Princeton selling system, I recommend taking that PowerPoint. If you print it, if you're a printer person, read it on the computer. It's a 2.5 to 3 hour read to really go through and digest it. Really understanding the foundation of that selling system will help you digest these trainings and figure out where we want to go. It's on the hub. If you have trouble finding it, I'm sure Jamie or Justin can get you a copy. There are some edits as we've gone through along the way, but it's a really good foundation. Most of it is taken directly from the first half of Ninja Selling. So a lot of that's there. And we've kind of evolved some of our own stuff with it over the years. But again, I really appreciate it as a foundation of what we go over. Today, we're going to dig into something. So we've been really digging in on our sales process with our branch managers. We've been doing branch manager training. Rich has been leading some of that, and I've been doing some leading on it in terms of just sales process, going in and reading some new books, stealing some process things. One of the things that we've stumbled onto that I think would be super helpful for you guys in developing new realtor relationships and continuing to build your network is adding two pieces of the sales process that are actually chapters 7 and 8 of the book on sales process. And we've talked about some of these things too. I want to kind of, as you talk about your sales process, and it starts with that funnel at the top, right? Who are the realtors that you want to target? How are you going to target them? What's your plan for those things? Now we want to get a meeting with them. Once we get face to face, we want to do our kind of recruiting questions, right? Where we find out about their whole life story and what their goals are and what's important to them. Once we've developed that meaningful relationship, I hope you guys have remembered the trainings that we've done on some of those things and you kind of feel like this is a refresher. Once you have gotten to that place and you're in the meeting and you've developed the meaningful relationship, that's what we're going to talk about today. So anybody remember, anybody take a look and see what the title of the training was for today? Anybody want to take a shot at it?
Digging for realtor pain.
Digging for realtor pain. Okay. So what people are motivated by two things. One is pain. What's the other one? Not a trick question. If you're going to buy something or you're going to do something, it's either because it's a relieving pain or what?
Success.
Yes.
Pleasure, right? It either makes you happy, it causes pleasure, you move towards that, or it avoids pain, right? Those things are pretty straightforward, right? So those are the two human motivators, right? So if we're with a realtor and we're trying to see if that realtor is going to work with us, they're going to change to us. One of the two reasons are, one is, hey, they like us so much that it's going to make them happy to work with us, which is true. Sometimes some people are motivated that way, or they're trying to avoid pain. They think that you'll do a better job for their clients or for them in terms of communication or whatever other things come up, that they're trying to avoid pain. They're going to work with you because you're going to make their life less painful. Would you guys say that for your realtors? How many people in here think that the realtors they work with them to avoid pain or pleasure? So let's who are the people who are saying it's pain? Me solving for pain is the main reason people work with me. I get deals done. I figure things out. Diana, Joe, John. Okay. How many people think it's pleasure? It's just people like me so much. That's why they send their business to me. Right? Yeah. Ernie says that. Fred, maybe. Jamie. Okay. So it's hard to, the pleasure part of this is difficult to do. If you were to rely on those meaningful relationships where you guys are going to have fun to do, you're either, that's kind of your mojo or it's not, and you're figuring that out and you're going forward with it. The way that you can really, what you really want to be doing is you want to be exposing pain. So let me ask you, most of you guys were recruited to Princeton Mortgage at some point. One of my favorite things to do with that is kind of, we do our own pain discovery. So I'm going to kind of relate to something in your life. How many of you guys, when you were at your old company, the amount of pain you were in changed based upon the day or the mood that you were in with your old company? How many of you guys were, raise your hand if you were in consistent pain? It was like every day stunk and you still stayed there forever. A couple people, but most people are motivated to leave. The pain usually comes in waves. Here's what we're really good at as human beings. And I learned this a long time ago. I used to do debt consolidation loans in the call center. Somebody could have $60,000 in credit card debt. The debt could be going up every single month. And day to day, they can avoid it. They can not think about it. They can feel like they have it under control. They can actually disassociate from it so much they don't even know how much debt they actually have. Because why? Because if we walked around constantly feeling the impending doom of our financial situation, we wouldn't be able to get through the day. And it's the same thing, by the way, when you're a salesperson at a mortgage company or in any other sales, right? You have to believe in your company and your product enough to be able to go out there and sell it, to build those meaningful relationships. And so you convince yourself day to day to kind of push any of those negative thoughts out of the way until they're hitting you in the face, right? So often I'll talk to a loan officer and they'll be like, listen, I am looking around, but I'm actually really happy at my current company. I hear that all the time. They start, I'm really happy at my current company. Then I dive in and I start asking questions like, tell me about your process. Oh, my process stinks. Tell me about your compensation. Oh, they're changing it. They're messing with it. It's never right, blah, blah, blah. Tell me about your products. Well, we used to have this, we used to have that, and I'm miserable. All of a sudden, they're like, you know what? I hate this place. You ask them 3 questions, and all of a sudden, the pain just kind of comes up, right? And so what we want to do with our realtors is how many of you guys, when you call a realtor, they all say they work with somebody right now? They have a guy. It's their first answer, right? And the story you tell yourself, because we're human and we hate rejection, is they must love their person, or that's the greatest loan officer in the world, or because they have a guy, it's going to be really hard for me to get in. Well, the reality is that oftentimes just 2 or 3 key discovery questions will reveal to the realtor. They don't even know it right now. They've convinced themselves this is the best loan officer they've found so far, right? It's better than the last guy they had or the people before that. They don't even know how much pain they're in. So what are the questions that we can ask somebody as a realtor? Or what are the questions I even could have asked you as a loan officer when you're at your old company, or about your financial situation when you think about it? What are some discovery questions that so again, we have a realtor, we've targeted the data set we want. We've called that realtor, we put a plan together to contact that person. We set up a meeting. We've built a relationship with them. So now we know where they grew up, what motivates them, their parents, blah, 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 what are they like as a kid. They told me their whole life story. Now we want to dig into, should I work with this person? And by the way, tomorrow's training is going to be an awesome follow-up for this, where we're going to bring this all together. What are my dig in for pain questions? And by the way, I'm not going to give this to you. You all have to participate, unmute yourself. I don't care if you're in a train tunnel. Talk to me. What are the questions that we want to ask realtors so that we can discover pain? And by the way, sometimes help them discover the pain they're in. Come on, be brave.
What do you like about your current lender, or what don't you like about your current lender?
Okay, those are some. Who was that, by the way?
Woody.
Hi, Woody. Yeah, super easy, right? What do you like about your current lender? Right? By the way, is that a comfortable question for people to ask right now?
Yeah, it's an easy get started one.
Yeah. By the way, start with what they like is a really good way to approach it, right? Hey, what you work with so-and-so. How did you guys start working together? What really works for you about that relationship? I'd love to learn, right? And you can go into that. It's a super simple thing, right? I actually, by the way, I don't. So what's another way to ask the person what they don't like about their lender, is what Woody said.
Is your lender closing your loans on time?
So that's a very direct question, but here, I'm glad you brought that up. What's the date? What are you hoping? What are the possible answers to that question?
Always.
Yeah, right. So sometimes if I ask a question like that, where it's like a very specific lead-in question, okay, I can actually sell this person on why they should stay where they are. Right? Like, well, listen, did they close your loan on time? He's like, actually, you know what? They've never missed a closing date in 4 years. And you're like, damn it, I just walked into that, right? And I set myself up. So, and by the way, I think, Jose, I think a lot of people do it this way. I think sometimes I do it this way. And by the way, the training we're going to do tomorrow, one of the things I loved about doing this training for the branch managers was I was like, I'm not always following my process for this. And so again, the best way to learn is to teach. When we want to search for pain, but we don't want to set ourselves up to either create objections about us or to sell the person on who they're already working with. So what's another way we can search for that pain?
How does your current lender communicate with you?
Yeah, right. So, hey, how does your current lender communicate with you, right? And so, by the way, there's nothing weird. So now if it's good news, they're like, oh, I love the communication. I get to take, and by the way, you should be taking notes when this person is going over this with you and repeating back to them what they say. I always summarize. So they go over the communication. I write down all the stuff. It's like, so what you're saying, what you really like about their communication structure is, or what you like to change about the communication structure is X. And you want to get them to repeat it back to you, right? So you repeat it to them and they confirm. You want them to know and feel like what they're saying to you is super important. By taking notes and confirming, they feel heard. Okay? So we're digging in, right? And by the way, either way, Diana wins on that question. Okay? So it's like, hey, if it's great communication, I get to write down and learn about this person and what's important to them on the good communication. If it's not good, then I know I can start to learn, like, hey, and by the way, so let's say they say, Diana, honestly, their communication isn't great. You know, I only really hear from them when I reach out. How do you respond?
Are you asking me, Mark?
Yeah, I'm asking. I guess I think I know how most people respond. I'm interested how you would respond.
I would just ask them. I mean, are you during the process of a mortgage? Would you like for me to communicate via text, via email, give you updates? Obviously, I do that already, and they know that about me. So it's a huge, I let them know each step of where the file is when the appraisal comes in, and so forth and so forth. But you know, if a new realtor, I just ask them, how would you like for me to communicate with you if you were to give me a try?
So awesome. So I think what most salespeople do, and you kind of split the difference in the middle. I think what most salespeople do here is they go, well, at Princeton or me and my team, we have the best communication process in the industry. And we start telling them all the ways we've already solved for this thing, right? And by the way, that feels so good because like they're in pain and we have an answer. It's so tempting, right? But it doesn't have the desired effect. We want to dig for pain. We want to stay in this moment. We don't want to solve for this, right? So here's the next question. If you ask me, and then I kind of split the difference. If you were designing the perfect communication process from the loan officer to you and your client, what are the things that you think are most important for us to communicate and when? Now, they may not have the answers to those things, and that's okay. But for the people that do, and where you can take notes, this is going to be really powerful for our presentation of how we're going to build a relationship tomorrow. Super, super powerful. When we're in pain discovery mode, let me say this very clear so everybody can hear it. Pay attention. When we are in pain discovery mode, we are not trying to solve for pain. Our presentation of solution is a separate conversation. Let me say it again. What most salespeople do, what I do a lot of times when I'm recruiting, especially because I always feel like I have this time crunch. For some reason, I'm always so rushed in my own internal clock, right? So they'll be like, I'm in pain. I'll be like, here's how I'll fix your pain. It doesn't feel like I'm listening. And it feels like I'm having a one size fits all answer. And the person is likely not to believe me or only believe I'm telling a half truth if I start solving for those things. So I just want to keep digging. How would you like us to communicate? What things are important to you? What have you seen your clients like? What have you seen work in the past? And I want to keep digging for this. Now, as you list your laundry list of things this person would do in a perfect world that aren't happening, what happens? Their awareness of their pain and their current situation continues to grow, right? If I asked you as a loan officer, what are things that you're unhappy with your current loan process and what are some things you would change? You're going to have a million different stories for me about how this thing went wrong and this thing went wrong and this thing went wrong. And by the way, that just ups your pain, and it creates an urgency to find a new solution, which again, we're going to solve for tomorrow in tomorrow's training. So we're going to search for pain. So I'm going to keep asking questions. By the way, what's another way so I'm going to give you guys a scenario. And again, I try to relate these things to other things that happen in life so that you guys can take it with you. You're at a restaurant, okay? The manager or the waiter walks up to you in the middle of the meal and goes, how's everything going so far? How many of you guys spend time giving a thoughtful answer in that moment? Almost nobody, right? You're like, everything's great, thanks. Go away, right? You don't even think about it. You know, like, you're just like, please, like, it's all good, great. And they walk away like, yes. Part of the reason that exchange goes that way is that person is asking with a tone and a hope that you are going to say everything's great, right? They come in like, how's everything going? They're like, good, great. Now that person came to the table and was like, hey, how are you guys enjoying your meal? Yes. Let me ask you a question. If there was any one thing we could do even just a little bit better to make this a better experience for you, what would it be? Now that would trigger you in a very different way to think about it. Suddenly this person actually wants to know the answer, right? They're really concerned. They want to know what they can do better. They're trying hard. So as a person, I want to comply with this. I want to give them an answer that's going to help them, right? I'm also going to think about it. Now, the reason why restaurants don't do this is because they're afraid they're going to have to refund something or give you your money back on something, or you're going to give them bad news for something they can't fix. They're afraid of the answer. As loan officers, we don't want to be afraid of the answer. We want to be able to do whatever that thing is that's important to them or discover it, or maybe this person's not the right realtor for us, right? So I might ask them just very simply this, like, hey, listen, I know you love your current lender, right? But if there is any one thing that you wish could happen with the mortgage process, or they could do even a little bit better, what might it be? Right. And so once you have a real relationship with this person at this point, you've spent the time with them, they're gonna think about it and find those things. So you will be able to discover pain in a different way. Right. Communication seems to be the thing that comes up the most. But what are some other pain points, things that you hear from realtors that you think represent an opportunity for you to outperform or get them to send you business? What are some, go ahead, Fred.
Well, they need Eagles tickets for the Super Bowl. But other than that, actually, this came up last week, Thursday. I was at an office doing some scorecard stuff, and one person came up to me after it, and they were talking about appraisals. So now I took this from Rich's teachings the last couple of weeks, is that I didn't jump in and just like go off on a bunch of stuff and how we do business. And I mean, I gave a little insight of how the appraisal business works, because most realtors don't know. They still think that like I'm calling Johnny Doe and being like, hey, you need to get out here because it's like, you know, we need to get this right away. They have no idea about the appraisal process. So I took their concerns, and then I waited till Monday, and I just followed up with an email. I was like, hey, by the way, this is how the process worked. Worked. And then I copied an email transaction from Mercury to show how we communicate, and that it's not just from us, it's from the management company, and they loved it. They love the openness, and now they completely understand the appraisal process and know that it's not us. You know, so and communication is open.
So I love that. So you discuss. So pain was their appraisals aren't doing a good job. What was the actual? So I don't like my appraisal process. What was their biggest complaint about how appraisals work?
Miscommunication with appraisers. This is funny because this is what her concern was. And yesterday we had an issue, but multiple appraisals calling on the same property, mistake by a vendor, not following up, appraisers taking forever. They would give their number, schedule an appointment, and then they would be late, like things like that. And they just thought that it was my guy or girl, like it was just my buddy, and I just called them up and I should fire that person. And know, in that email, I explained to them there's no firing, but we can report and eventually get them off our preferred list due to, lack of integrity.
Yeah, so I think there's some other very specific things that you could do to solve for that. But again, I wouldn't solve for it right here. What are some other things that we hear from realtors that are opportunities for us to solve for pain? What do realtors want?
I always start off with, does your lender, are they available on the weekends for you? And I saw on LinkedIn the other day, there was a poll, and 50% of mortgage people said they don't like to work on the weekend. So that's a really big pain point with a lot of people that I've found here around Birmingham, is a lot of their lenders don't work on Saturday and Sunday. Okay.
Seems like so why? So by the way, Alan, next time that comes up, ask them, how does that hurt your business as the realtor? Right. So again, when I'm digging for pain, it seems obvious. You could fill in the blanks to you, right? Like, well, why is that a problem? That you know why it's a problem, why the lender doesn't work on the weekends, right? But make them say it. Because first of all, you'd be surprised. That realtor might be like, have really weird reasons for really specific things about why that's annoying for them in their process, or what's important to them might not be important to you in the same way. But more importantly, by digging in and asking them how it's hurting their business, you're making that pain real and attaching it to either their income or their happiness or something else. And so we want to get really good at asking the follow-up questions. So cool. Listen, it really annoys me when my lenders don't work on the weekends. How does that hurt your business? Right? Let that come out there. And by the way, take the notes, write this stuff down, because I'm going to tell you, when we lead into tomorrow, you're going to see how powerful it is when we capture all of this information in one place. What else? What are some other things that realtors complain about?
I've heard that sometimes when their current lender gets too big or their business blows up, that the personal touch goes away.
Cool. So great. Why? So you worked with so-and-so and they've gotten really big. How has that impacted you and your clients? right? You want to keep digging in. So is it the fact that there's no personal touch, or is it the people that are on their team don't do as good a job as that other person? Or is it that no one's reaching out anymore? Or, hey, obviously you want your lender to succeed also. What are some things that they could do while they're getting bigger to make it feel like you're still getting that personal touch? Or what specifically has changed between you and your borrowers that they could solve for? By digging in and really you're attaching more and more real consequence to this feeling that they're having, right? And so, but you'll find, by the way, is that most of the things that this person wants are really solvable, right? And by the way, we don't want to be afraid of the ones that aren't solvable, right? Don't be afraid. Write those down too. You want this person to feel heard, like Fred did. Fred may or may not have some solutions on the appraisal side, and maybe there's some things that we can work for, but maybe just Fred explaining to you, hey, listen, this is how it works, is part of, we're maybe not solving for, but maybe there's an education piece that builds trust, right? But again, we're looking, what's the goal at the end of this pain conversation? Be brave.
How you can solve for their pain.
Is that the goal? You just want to be a really good person and fix everyone's pain?
Creating a relationship.
Is that the goal? What's
Get
the goal?
Deals, get
Yeah,
business.
I want all of their deals. By the way, let me ask you a question. How many of you guys have a realtor that's really good at getting all of their clients to apply with you? You guys all have that realtor who's really good at it? How many of you guys have a realtor that seems to love you, but somehow it's always 1 out of 3, the other 2 out of 3 know somebody, do this, do that, right? I actually want my goal in this conversation, and when I go to the presentation part of this tomorrow, I'm gonna blow your minds a little bit with what we're gonna get to come out of this, okay? Is to come up with an agreement between me and this person that I'm gonna solve all this pain, and they're going to introduce me over text to each one of their clients. That's the way I want to be introduced within 1 hour of finding a potential buyer. That's where I'm headed. I'm going to discover all of your pain. I'm going to tell you how we're going to fix it. And I'm going to commit to fixing it in a very specific way. That's where this is leading to. And you are going to commit to a text introduction with every buyer within an hour of discovering your buyers. And they're going to be excited to say yes. My goal is to do such a good job uncovering their pain, letting them feel their pain, that when I have a solution to that pain, they are going to happily agree to putting something in writing where they're going to say they're going to introduce me to all their clients. How many of you guys have a realtor that does exactly what I just said, introduce you to every borrower within an hour, 100% of the time? How many of you guys have realtors where you have an agreement on how you want to be introduced? Not because they decided how they want to introduce you, but you said, I want you to introduce me to your clients like this. How many of you guys have an agreement with any of your realtor partners like that? When we come through this training that we're going to do in the series over the next couple of weeks, the goal for each of you should be to get to that place. You know you don't have a real referral partner until they know what you've agreed to in terms of your process for what your SLA is to that realtor, and they've agreed to what your SLA is to them and their clients, right? And so we want to expose enough pain in our pain discovery conversation to say, okay, I'm going to do this and you're going to do this, and we both agree to do it. Let's shake hands on work together on this new process, right? Does that feel possible? So our pain discovery questions, right? Hey, tell me who you work with right now. Who do you really like? I'm going to write a lot of this stuff down. We're going to really script this out over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be able to hand it to you. You can bring it with you when you go to your appointments. Who do you work with now? What are some of your favorite things about it, right? If you could change any one thing about your process with this loan officer, what might that be? What's your wish list for how the mortgage industry could do a better job for realtors overall? How does that thing you wish changed affect you and your clients and your business? Do you think it's affecting your bottom line? Would you make more money or either make more money or have more time if this was able to be solved for you? right? And go through, and a lot of it will come down to communication. Now, here's the thing. We have a pretty good automated communication system. Do not tell them that in this conversation. We're not solving for anything, right? We don't want to let them know that we have the solution. Now, by the way, they may say there's one or two things at points of communication that are important to them that our system does not have currently built in. Let's talk about this for a minute. So let's say, first of all, if we should only be talking to realtors right now that do 8 buy-sides a year, right? We want to get at least 50% wallet share, meaning that even with cash transactions and some people knowing their current buddy's a loan officer or whatever else it is, we want half of those buy-sides to be ours. So each realtor should be worth a minimum of 4 buy-sides a year to us. Over 5 years, that's at least 20 buy-sides. That's the client acquisition. Take your average commission per deal, let's call it $4,000. Your minimum acquisition benefit from making a relationship with this realtor should be $80,000. So when you're sitting across from that realtor and doing this pain discovery conversation, this is an minimum $80,000 conversation for the next 5 years of your business. Minimum. You should be treating it that way. So I'm not going to try to solve for everything in this meeting. I'm here simply to discover what's important to this person and where there's pain. What are the things that I can solve for, right? So when they say to me, hey, you know what's really important to me? I want to call every Tuesday, whether it's good news or bad news, to me and my client, or I want a scheduled call every Tuesday with me and my client for 15 minutes where you answer our questions and give us an update on what's going on. And I want it over Zoom, no matter where you are. Is that something that you would all be willing to do for a realtor that was going to be worth at least 4 buy-sides a year for you? Right. Now, do I want to say that as soon as they ask for it? No. What I actually want to do is just write this down, keep taking notes, keep building things. This is this person's wish list. And say, oh man, this is really good stuff. Tell me what else is really important to you, right? Now, here's what I want to do at the end of this conversation. I'm going to thank you so much for providing me this information. I'm going to go back and talk about this with my team over the next 2 or 3 days, okay? And I'm going to put together a proposal for how I think we can solve some or all of the things that you're looking for. If I can do that, is there any reason why you wouldn't give us a chance to start working together and send me your next client deal? Now, again, we've figured out who our data set is. We had our initial phone call. We met with this person and got to know everything about them. We've had this pain discovery call. They've listed their wish list of all the things they wish a mortgage company could be. And you're like, if I can solve all this, is there any reason why you wouldn't work with me? What are they going to say? They're going to say one of two things. They're going to say, yes, I'll work with you, or I have this other real objection. So here's the most important part of this call, this conversation. You don't want to be the waiter or the GM saying, how is your experience here today? I'm not afraid of the objection. I'm actually desperate to get the objection out right here. Because once I'm on my solution call, which we're going to talk about in training tomorrow, it's very difficult to overcome objections because the other person feels like they're trying to be sold. On this call, I'm still simply trying to discover what I can do to make this person's life better. So when I'm going through this and I do my summary, so remember, you want this, you want this, you want this, you want this, you want this. If I can solve for these 5 things, is there any reason, anything at all that you can think of? And I want to emphasize that, like, is there any reason why you wouldn't send me your next deal and give us a chance to work together as a partner? Well, actually, here's my problem. I'm spending $1,000 on, I have a loan officer giving me $1,000 a month for Zillow right now, and I would feel really bad sending the business to you. If you don't ask that question this way, you never find out that that's the reason this person won't work with you. The realtor might be embarrassed or think it's illegal or shady that they're getting $1,000, or maybe they just don't want to be the kind of person that's asking you for money, whatever it is. But if you don't ask it this way, you want to be open to it. You want to have this great conversation, you have this relationship. Is there any reason? There is a reason. They're either going to work with you, or there is a reason that they will probably not want to share with you why they're not going to work with you. The way you ask this question right here, this is the moment to overcome objections. Cool, that's interesting. So I understand that you have the $1,000 with Zillow. Why are you buying leads? What are you getting from them? What is it contributing to your bottom line? How much of your business is coming from Zillow right now? I want to go through all of it. I want to get all the information. I want to dig for pain, dig for pain, dig for pain, dig for reasons. I'm not going to talk about it right now. Cool. When I go back with my team over the next 2 or 3 days, I'm going to make a business decision is, do I want to be in the Zillow lead buying business? Maybe I'm going to call Mark or call my branch manager and ask them, hey, do you think this is a good idea or not? What should we do? How should we kind of propose this? Maybe when you ask those questions about the Zillow leads, the person goes, actually, I've gotten nothing from Zillow. I don't even know why we're doing it. Well, why don't we save that money? And then what I'll help you do is build out your database and CRM to figure out your sphere of influence, and we'll help you market those people so you can get more business the old fashioned way. One of the things I think Princeton's really great at is helping you work your sphere of influence. Do you have a list of 200 people who know you, like you, and trust you? People are buying leads because they don't feel like they can get enough business from their circle and their sphere. Can you help them in some other way? Can you build their business in another way? They're buying leads to begin with, for the most part, because they're in pain, right? So again, as salespeople, all of a sudden it's a threat. Shit, now I'm going to spend $1,000 a month on Zillow. That's the feeling we get when we find that out. Let's dive in. Let's keep discovering. Let's find out what's really going on. Are there other ways that we can solve for it? This takes practice. But the goal of this call is to discover pain, agree upon what that pain is, and say, hey, listen, I don't even know if I can do any of this stuff, but if I could solve some or all of this stuff, is there any reason why we wouldn't work together? No. Seriously, no reason. Can you think of anything at all? Any reason at all why you wouldn't want to work with me? Dude, if you can solve all that stuff, you're going to be the best loan officer I've ever worked with. All right, let me see what I can do. I'm going to call you at 5 o'clock on Friday. We're going to go through it together. And I'm going to talk about tomorrow what's going to happen on that call. Questions, comments, or thoughts about digging for pain? Here's a fun question. How many of you guys think you're crushing this pain conversation right now, the way that we just went over it? I'm not. I don't do it with my loan officers. I'm screwing this up on a regular basis right now. So I share it with you from a place of like, I know this is the right way. What I will say to you is this. I spent the majority of my working life before coming to Princeton Mortgage perfecting, teaching, and coaching to a sales script for internet-based refinance leads, either rate and term or cash out. We had a very specific process that followed exactly what it is that I'm talking about here. It worked unbelievably well. When I read the book that was talking about sales process that I'm going over right now, and I'll share it with you guys tomorrow, the name's escaping me. I don't have it in front of me. I read this part of the book and I was like, oh my God. The fact that I don't have this built out and I'm not teaching it the exact same way I did with the borrowers in the call center is such a missed opportunity. When I'm discovering, I do a good job digging for pain. And then I immediately go, here's how Princeton fixes that. And they're like, okay, cool. And they only half hear me. It feels like I only asked so I could tell them how great we were. And by the way, every mediocre and shitty recruiter or salesperson is going to say to somebody, yeah, we have a thing for that. Don't worry about it. We're not like that. We got it fixed. We got it fixed. We got it fixed. Right? I don't want to present solutions anymore in that haphazard way. People don't hear it. They don't believe it. And it feels like you only asked about their pain so you could tell them how great you were. Right? I want to be in complete and total open and discovery mode, whether I can solve for that pain or not. Right? I'll tell you now, we're at a point that if I'm doing recruiting right now and someone's like, dude, you know, I'm losing some loans for interest rate. It's like, well, cool. I'm going to write that down, but I can't solve for that right now. I got companies out here on suicide missions looking for deals. I got banks out there losing their shirts right now. People are doing silly things. We're all facing that as an industry right now. That's real. I can't solve for that. It doesn't mean I'm afraid of the answer. Right? Some things are reality in the way. I still want to get it out that pain. It's part of the solutions that we want to go into. So don't be afraid of those answers. So my experience for me is, and I'll just share this for me, I'm just so excited that I have a solution to their problem. I can't control myself sometimes. Like, oh my God, like someone's like, yeah, my marketing sucks. I'm like, let me tell you about our marketing. I want to get into it right now. Right? Because I think it's so cool. Why are some of the reasons why first of all, how many of you guys are having pain conversations, but doing what I just said, which is like, we're immediately telling them how awesome we are and how we have a fix. Is that happening for anybody? It takes real discipline not to do it. I'll tell you, when I was in the call center, I'll give you an example. So we would do a first call, which was like just basically taking the 1003. When I got to the second call, I already knew what the person qualified for and exactly what we could do for them. And I would act like I had no idea. So I'd say like, hey, I'm gonna have your credit report up in front of me in a few minutes. Let me go through all these questions about your debt, how you acquired your debt, what your monthly payments are, your balance going up or down, what the interest rates are, how long you think it would take you to pay it off if you kept paying what you're paying right now. How it makes you feel when you go to the mailbox. I'd write all this stuff down. We go through it together. Then I go through the credit report and I make them write down every account, your mortgage, your balance, your payment, your credit cards, your balance, how much you're paying each month. Then I would add up all the credit cards that we're going to pay off in the loan for this debt consolidation with the mortgage. The total is $5,286. Write that number down and circle it. And you feel them having a panic attack. Now I knew the whole time that I was going to be able to do a refinance for this person, put them into a new 25-year loan. So not even going backwards in term and save them $1,400 a month. I'd say, listen, if I could save you some money off of that $5,100, how much would really help you out? I want to save at least $1,000. Cool. So let me confirm all this. If I can get you into a 25-year fix so you don't go backwards in term, save you more than $1,000 a month and get your credit cleaned up so you don't have to feel this way when you go to the mailbox every day, is there any reason on earth why you wouldn't move forward with this? No. Are you sure? Any reason at all that you can think of? I want the objection out right now, right? This was built into our script. Then when I would call back a half hour later, I'd be like, I'm going to go down to the underwriter right now. I'm going to see if I can get you approved for this. If I can, we'll get it started today. Come back. So again, I'm going to recap the goals. And by the way, this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow when we get there. If I get you the goal is to get 25-year fixed, save at least $1,000 a month, and get your credit cleaned up so you don't have to feel bad going to the mailbox any day. Right? Right. Is there anything else you were looking to accomplish with this loan? No. We were able to accomplish every single one of those goals. The rate, the cost, everything else, who gives a shit? I discovered pain. I put that pain in front of them in a way where they could see it and feel it. They understood their situation. There was no other really way out. There's no other way to pay off 60 grand in credit card debt unless you're going to hit the lottery. I have the solution. The rest of it is details. Now, what bad loan officers do on leads is they go, here's what you qualify for. Do you want it or not? They don't. They shop around. They go around this. I'm going to get to know this person, what hurts, why it hurts, what they're doing every month, what their plan is. I'm going to have them all write it down. They're going to feel that pain. I'm going to come up with it at the end with a solution. Now I'm the hero. My close ratio is 75, 80%. Right? When I got to that point. So we're going to do the same thing tomorrow when we get these realtor conversations, which is like, we are going to dig for pain. Right? We're going to get these things out. We can even role play this as we go forward. Maybe you can role play with somebody here or just try it. Call one of your favorite realtors and be like, listen, I really want to get to know a little bit about how I'm doing or how other loan officers are doing. Tell me what you like about the mortgage process. Tell me what you don't. Let's go through it. Dig in for pain. What are the opportunities? Maybe there are things you can solve for your current realtors that would make them more excited to work for you. Practice having the conversations about digging for pain and ask them, how does this impact your business? How does this impact your mental health? How does it impact your stress level? Really get them to assess where they're at and then try to solve for those things. We should practice this week. Tomorrow, we're going to get into how we're going to present this in a way where if we do this correctly, this person is going to agree to an SLA with us. And the SLA, service level agreement, for you guys who don't know what SLA is I'm going to promise you this service on your mortgage transaction. You're going to promise to introduce me to your clients. And here's how I want it. And we're going to put it in writing. Okay. Questions or thoughts about the pain analysis? Each one of these realtor relationships is worth almost at least 80 grand. Let's call it 6 figures to you over the next 5 years. We should be treating our sales process like it's a 6-figure sales process. We should be treating our realtors like they're 6-figure clients. Paige.
When I was doing the MMI, and I went through the top realtors that had the 8 buy sides, and they weren't loyal to any one person. How do you solve that? Like they didn't have a specific you could see who they used, and how do you handle that the same way?
That's even easier for me, right? So if they're using a bunch of different loan officers, is there a chance they've had at least one bad experience?
Right.
Yeah, right. So like actually what usually happens is that person doesn't believe that there's really any difference between mortgage companies, or they know who they don't like, but they don't know who they do like. And they certainly don't think that you can deliver a differentiated relationship. So if you've got this person to think about it for a couple of minutes and say, hey, what would a lender do? What could they solve for? That would make it a no-brainer for you to refer one person, right? And then you're like, hey, I don't know if I can do that. Let me see. And then you came back 3 days later and you're like, everything that's on your wish list, we're doing it. Here's my agreement. That'd be super powerful. Right. And so either that person hasn't spent the time thinking about if they can make a difference with their lender or what they're looking for or what's going wrong, or maybe they have and they're just not doing, maybe they have a favorite lender, but they're not really good at introducing their buyers to that lender. They don't know how that process is supposed to work and no one's taught it to them before. Right. There's a reason. But we know that some of the most successful realtors in the world have one or two very specific lenders that they work with for one or two very specific reasons. And we want to figure out what those things are and how we can make that difference. Right. And again, we don't want to try to solve for it on this call, on this discovery call. That makes sense? Yeah, again, everyone has a reason for why they're doing what they're already doing. And what we want them to do is spend some time thinking about how it could be better. Right. And things will come up and you'll get good at prodding for those things. Any other questions? All right, guys, we won this one a little bit. So in terms of how I did the training, and I'm going to start writing these things down and putting the script together, but please rate the training. Please give us your feedback when that comes out. And then tomorrow we're going to really dive into the presentation part of this process. And then what I'll plan to do between this week and next week is put all this stuff in writing where we can see discovery questions and the presentation part of it. We start practicing it with our partners. Appreciate everybody coming. Please rate the meeting. Happy selling, everybody.